Mobile is a 5-year-old company now. I've been with the company as Chief Marketing Officer for 5 years. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, considering that 2 years is the usual turnover.
You must be very good.
Have I passed or have I failed? I'm not sure. The company's gone extremely well. We've managed to gain market share very rapidly, and the consumer segment in particular, we've 18 million customers on the voice side, and then about 1.5 million customers then that use our network to access the internet. As you say, it's quite easy to gain market share, or at least it was for us at the beginning. Penetration in the market of mobile phones was around 40%. The incumbent was, to a large extent, customer abusive. So it was quite easy for us at that stage then to gain market share then by being a little friendlier. The market tends to then become a little bit more complex. You know, we saw in our customer satisfaction survey, for example, I'd never seen anything like it before. People were tremendously happy with the company. And it was more the fact that they were the first time with the mobile phone, or the first time in a category. That was the elation that they had. And then over time, then we started to see that satisfaction decline, and the efforts required from us as a company then to retain those customers increases, or our efforts to attract them and retain them become a lot more difficult and a lot more complex. The brand as well needs to evolve. At the beginning, we were new, we were innovative. That was sufficient for people to come in. There was no real other alternative after the incumbent. But then we saw then to get certain demographics in the market, in particular the Saudi male demographic, then that took a lot more effort, and the brand needed to evolve over time. Now with a base of 18 million customers, I'd say half of our efforts within the company are devoted to looking at the types of services that our customers are using, their usage, and how do we get them to stay with us as long as possible. So at least 50% of the efforts are put into keeping the base, keeping the customers relatively happy with us, that they stay for a prolonged period of time.
David, do you have one overall value proposition for all customers? And do you also have a different one for the teenagers, for women? What do you say about your company that makes them prefer you?
Again, we're quite different from how we started out. At the beginning, because penetration levels were relatively low, we could go with this mass market offering, you know, to satisfy everybody. And predominantly it was attracting the expat community then, because they were starting to see minute rates to India, Bangladesh, places that they hadn't seen before, you know. And then we realized then, of course, then when you start to reach saturation, then you need to build products and propositions then that satisfy the needs of those customers. So we started out with, again, typical marketing exercise. Then you look at the demographics of the country, you can see that you've got this, you know, massive young population here in Saudi Arabia that's just growing and growing, and obviously they're becoming more mature. We want to capture them as early as possible. Number one, they're more open to technology, they're more open to new companies and new services than older customers are. And also then, if we capture them now, we've got them when they move into their first salary, when they become wealthy at a later stage, we carry them through the life cycle. So yes, we have multiple propositions. The first one was targeted towards youth. It was called Fala. It was innovation, it was communication, it was young communication, it was pricing plans suited to their needs, how we saw their needs. Then we moved on, interestingly, then to a female proposition then, which probably wouldn't work in other countries then, called Najma, then dedicated for females. Again, we have incredible information about the calling patterns of people here in Saudi Arabia. So we can see that females like to call, for example, predominantly between 11 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, for example. And then we built a package then with very, very low rates during this period of time. They've got certain interest in certain TV programs or certain content. We include that content in the package and provide it out. We've come up with other brands then as well. We've realized then that Saudi population in particular they saw us as an expatriate or a foreign company, which wasn't good for our brand. We needed to migrate from this. So in actual fact, products helped us lead away from the brand positioning that we had at the beginning into a higher or more premium end brand. One of the products was access to the internet. We introduced this dongle that you plug into your laptop, and through the air then you get access to the internet. There was huge demand again amongst the youth population here. The incumbent wasn't serving that need. we branded that. It became a generic name. It's called Connect here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then to access it. And then we moved a little bit further then up in the value. Then we have a proposition called Rocky. And Rocky then is for more of a prestigious proposition. Then there's a number of minutes included in there. There's a concierge service included in there. And the communication that we run along with that is more refined. You will see somebody pulling up in their Mercedes-Benz, getting out, somebody opening the door. If you call our call center, you're straight through and you've got a red carpet service into that. So as you mature, you need to really start chopping up the market. We've been successful in some, not so successful in others.
Well, David, you illustrate the proposition at the end of my lecture, which is if you are doing the same thing 5 years from now that you're doing now, you won't be in business. And what you're illustrating is you are innovating all the time and changing and so on. Thank you very much, and I think we may have more questions for you. Khalid, I'm so happy to meet you. I believe you're handling a lot of companies in your. Would you tell us about your organization?
I came from a family business background, and I moved actually basically from food to the industrial products, which is mainly the building material products.
The microphone, yes.
Okay. So that's basically was my background. So food to the industrial products. Are you going to ask me, or should I ask you a question?
What?
Are you going to ask me a question, or should I ask you a question?
No, I can't until you have a chance to say what you might have been interested in during the day, or any ideas that you're using anyways, maybe new ones that I don't know about.
Okay. Well, I have an issue which I think that's a reasonable issue that to be raised, which is the culture. I'm always thinking about the culture and the globalization. The more globalization that we have, the less effect the culture will have in consumer. That's an assumption. So, do you agree with this assumption that the globalization will reduce the importance of the culture effects on consumer base?
The question then becomes, we are going to globalize regardless, and what does that do? You're interested in how it affects cultures. Like, there used to be a charge that as we globalize, we're going to homogenize cultures.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be very similar. Because the youth around the world, they all use the cell phone now, and they see the same movies and so on. And this was an article that was written by the famous Theodore Levitt. Do you remember ever reading anything about his concept of marketing myopia? He was at Harvard, and he also wrote an article about globalization. And he was saying the world is getting more and more alike.
Mm-hmm.
But now remember, Thomas Friedman wrote a book called The Olive and the Lexus, the olive tree and the Lexus, because he saw a competition between modernity and culture.
Okay.
And he was raising the question, can't there be, as there is more globalization, maybe there will be more localization.
Mm-hmm.
That people will respect their own culture and tighten up about how it is important to their lives. That there's something about being part of a global culture which isn't connected enough to you. Yes, you want to be with the whole world and what's happening, but you also want to be in a culture that you care about. So I think it's a good question you're raising. Now, there's another question, and that is, as the world's population keeps growing, and as we try to bring more people into enough purchasing power to live a better life, we're going to have some other conflicts. And that is the sustainability problem, because as more people are going to want cars and all the good things and so on, can planet Earth support all that? And this is it's not used as an argument against helping the poor people get better off.
Okay.
It's will there be enough water for the world?
Mm-hmm.
And will the air be good enough for the world? So how do we grow our world GDP in a way that works well for everyone. And one of the observations I made is maybe we are putting too much weight on what is called GDP. You know, we say, oh, our GDP is going to grow 2%, China's is going to grow 10%, and so on. GDP is a measure of your output, but it's not a measure of your happiness. So there was a big movement called developing happiness indices. Recently, and I'm sorry to hitchhike on you, but this is interesting, there was an article in Newsweek magazine where people were asked what are the best countries they would like to live in. The United States was not number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it was number 19. Isn't that interesting? That the concept of what country you admire most, but the Scandinavian countries got among the highest ratings for, obviously, because they care about your health, they care about your education, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is we should always measure more than just how good we are at producing goods and services. We got to measure what it's doing to the quality of life.
Yeah, there is a point which is related to this, just a question that may be passed to my colleague from McDonald's. Do you think that if McDonald's been introduced to the Saudi market 20 years more than, prior than that they introduced it here, do you think that it will be a successful story? Because I'm again referring to the culture issue here.
Yeah.
Because being global and as you said, exposing to the movies, to traveling,
Yes.
is actually reducing the diversity in culture.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So that will let people accept the other products as is. Okay? So thinking, for example, about McDonald's as a case, if it's been introduced to the Saudi market 20 years earlier, maybe it will not be a successful story because of the cultural issue. So that's my assumption, and that's my argument, let me say.
Very, very interesting. It's a question we will carry on then.
Okay.
I want to introduce Prince Michal. And you know, I talked about McDonald's. I hope I said good things.
I was very impressed with your presentation today.
Why is McDonald's so successful? What's the secret?
Well, if you allow me, I'd like to just start with giving a brief introduction of McDonald's Saudi Arabia. McDonald's Saudi Arabia was established the franchise was acquired in 1992, and we opened our first restaurant in December of 1993. As of today, we have over 125 restaurants operating in the kingdom. And we are by far the largest quick service restaurant chain in Saudi Arabia, with the largest market share, and we have the highest penetration and frequency of visits in the whole industry. And those are results we're very proud of. Now, the main pillars behind achieving these great results are mainly the pillars that were founded or established when we first opened our first restaurant, which were mainly taken from the McDonald's global pillars and localized. So, of course, one of our number one pillar is to provide each and every one of our customers with the highest levels and standards of quality, service, and cleanliness in our restaurants at the highest levels of value.
We call that QSCV, I believe.
QSCV.
Quality, service,
cleanliness, and value. Correct. The second main pillar, is market penetration, and that is achieved obviously through organic growth of restaurant outlets. Third is to play an active role in our local communities, and this is, I think, will address my colleague's question. Is since day one, McDonald's Saudi Arabia has been keen on playing an active and differentiated role in the local Saudi community. And I'm very proud to say that we have been very successful in achieving that, although we are still far from our expectations, but we have been able to differentiate ourselves as a company that is deeply involved in the community and is very supportive of our country and community. We always emphasize on the fact that yes, McDonald's is a global brand, but inside Arabia, it is a local Saudi company. And that fourth is we strive, since day one we have strived and we continue to strive on supporting our local economy, Saudi economy. Through, as you mentioned today, we've been very keen on developing local suppliers, sharing with them the expertise and the know-how to develop them to become approved suppliers, not only to McDonald's Saudi Arabia, but also to McDonald's regionally and internationally, globally. Today we have many Saudi suppliers that not only are supplying the GCC region, but they're also supplying other McDonald's in other parts of the world, in the Far East and in the West also. For example, our signage, local signage supplier exports signage to McDonald's Europe and McDonald's Far East.
So you're really an agent for change. That actually you've unleashed economic forces locally in support of the economy.
Yes, sir. As a result of our efforts, today more than 80% of our products are sourced locally from the Saudi market. And the last main pillar of our business is to encourage local employment. And I'm very proud to say that we have been and we continue to be the pioneers and leaders in this area within our industry. Today we have achieved a Saudization rate of 25% of our total workforce. Now within the quick service restaurant industry, that is perceived to be a very high percentage and a great achievement, and we have been recognized continuously by the local government authorities on our achievement there. And we're very proud of the development programs that our Saudi employees undergo. We have hundreds of success stories where we have had Saudis join the company as service crew and grow up through the ranks, and they have achieved very high positions within our operations and even within our head office. So that's just a brief of the company. Now, more specifically on what we've been discussing today and on the marketing aspect. As McDonald's, we have, obviously as a brand, we have a vision, we have a mission, and we have a brand promise. Okay. You touched on one of them today. Of course, our vision is to be our customer's first choice. That is the brand's vision, globally and locally. Okay. Our mission is we want to be our customer's favorite place and way to eat. And last, our promise is to provide each and every customer simple, easy enjoyment every time they visit our restaurants.
Well, it's so well thought out. I can almost imagine the diagram like I did at Starbucks with all of these things integrated and so on. I think that whenever I talk to young people who are looking for a job, and I mean high school kids, their first choice is to work for you. It's not to work for Wendy's, it's not to work for Burger King. And it must be traveling as word of mouth to kids that this is the best, you do the best with your employees. I'll tell you one little short story. McDonald's noticed in the United States that sometimes when a group of people come in, not everyone wants what's on the menu. They like hamburgers, some want pizza. So they started to think about making McDonald's capable of having on their menu hamburgers, pizza, and so on. So they even went so far as to hire they chose the best supplier of cheese. And he came up to me, he was in a conference, he says, boy, I'm going to make a fortune. McDonald's chose me to supply the cheese. Turns out that as McDonald's ran the experiments and so on, they couldn't combine a pizza with a hamburger place. And he lost, there was no business there, and I felt badly for him. What happened there?
If I may elaborate on that, you're absolutely right, and you touched on this earlier. Today, where McDonald's is today is, of course, as you rightfully highlighted today, companies go through cycles. And McDonald's is a company that was established in 1955, and as I'm sure everybody knows, as of today, there's over 30,000 restaurants in over 110 countries globally. And as all other multinational companies, they've had their good times and their bad times. What happened was, as a result of the high demand, global demand on the brand, there was a time in the late 70s, early 80s where McDonald's was focused on pure expansion. Right? And as a result, of course, they suffered from weaknesses in the operations and the brand building.
They grew too fast.
They grew too fast, absolutely.
That's like that How the Mighty Fall.
Correct.
But
at a certain time, they even became irrelevant to consumers. Consumers no longer connected with the brand. So late 90s, the senior management of the corporation realized that, and as a result of a lot of research and analysis and discussions, it was decided that the company needed to take a new direction. And that direction is what we're seeing today. Complete re-imaging of the restaurants. The restaurants, all new restaurants today and existing restaurants are being upgraded to be more relevant, more cozy, more appealing to the consumers. The menu has been completely
and localized to a large extent.
Localized, absolutely. Localized, but also the offerings on the menu. The direction is to offer a variety of good, healthy, nutritious products. In addition to offering alternative local dishes to each relevant to each market. Here in Saudi Arabia, we introduced a few years ago a premium sandwich under the name of Mac Arabia. Right? And it was a product that we developed locally, regionally. And that product, since the day of launch, has been very successful. And as a result of that success, that product has also been introduced in European markets also. So as of today, Mac Arabia is not only in the Saudi market or the regional market, it is also a product that is offered in the European market to consumers.
I've always thought that any company that is regional or global can learn so much from its local units. I don't know if Unilever is here, which is a great company, but they tell me though it's headquartered in Europe, they learn so much from India, for example, that Unilever in India, it's called Unistan, I forget what they call it. They do some interesting things which come into Europe as a result. Well, I want to thank you for that wonderful picture of how one of our most successful companies evolves. It's like your story about continuing to review the strategy. Maji, I'm glad you're on the panel very much because you represent a different type of industry, the government. And if you're going to tell me that the government actually uses any marketing or it actually makes use of these concepts, I'd be surprised. But apparently what you've been doing is using all of this language.
Well, first, let me thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to experience marketing firsthand and be among all the marketeers here in Saudi Arabia. What makes us unique, actually, as a government agency, we are a self-funded, independent government agency. We have a board, and the board chairman is the Minister of Commerce and Industry, but we don't report to any other government agency. So that in itself makes us a unique, independent government agency in charge of providing industrial land to actually achieve an industrial strategy that was put by the National Industrial Strategy to facilitate for all the industrial sector fully integrated cities to provide infrastructure and to be competitive in the market. Having said this, looking at what we have learned in the last sessions that we had this morning, it is a very unique experience for Modern to go through the three 1.0, 1.2, 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 in a short period of time. We were customer-driven at the beginning, product-driven at the beginning. In the last 2 years, we were trying to put a strategy of how we can build more industrial land, which is our product. And then we became a customer-driven, where we were looking at our clients who were in waiting lists and how we can satisfy them. Recently, we started looking at the value and how we put the mind, heart, and spirit in our practice. Because at the end of the day, we are concerned about the environment, we are concerned about job creation, we are ultimately concerned about the well-being of the Saudi citizens. So that in itself gave us an opportunity to look at the best practice of how we can market ourselves and develop marketing strategies, marketing plans, objectives, targets, identify our target audience, and what is the best way to approach them. And that's why one of the reasons that we are here is one of the ways that we can communicate with the people about what is the experience of model and learn from the others of what they think will be a best way to develop and improve ourselves. So that gave us, as a government agency, the uniqueness of how we are promoting ourselves as a corporate attitude with a government body.
It seems, I believe you mentioned to me when I had a chance to speak to you that you're working on 22 new cities. You're actually, your organization is creating industrial parks.
We actually have up and running 14 industrial cities and 6 more industrial cities either under development or planning.
That means you have to decide who to attract to build into the cities, their companies, and basically maybe some from abroad as well as here. So you're going to market yourself. This is going to be a good city to have your factory, your office, yeah.
Exactly. Ultimately, we would like to see the products made in Saudi Arabia, and the logo or the branding of made in Saudi Arabia is everywhere. Not only in Saudi Arabia, in the region, and ultimately internationally. We have a great executive team was put together in the last 2 years. That executive team looked at, as a group, as a team, looked at the whole strategy of the industrial city or the industrial agency and decided on what are the priorities. And this is why we were able to set goals. We have KPIs. You don't hear in government agencies that they have KPIs. And the reason is because at the end of the day, we have objectives that we have to achieve. And I think numbers can be evident of what we were doing.
Yeah, I love the idea of establishing an independent government agency that it's off the politics and the burdens of all the other agencies and so on. So that's a good story, and maybe there will be questions about it. Let's hear now from Dr. Fahid, our academic, my friend as an academic person. I'm glad to have you with us.
Really, I'm so glad to have you, and I can't believe it that I am in front of you and talking to you. I've been your teacher, been your student from a long time ago, and I've been give you all the respect for whatever you have read, right, and thought. I just wanted to say that when I teach marketing, I all time tell my students something about you, especially when you emphasizing that when you do exchange, if you are really a real marketer, you have to be sure that you're giving your customer the value which is equal or more than what he sacrificed for. And you stated in your marketing management textbook. And I all time, emphasizing this concept. If you want to be a real marketer, don't sell your customer any product unless you are sure that he's getting the value out of his money, more or equal to that. And really, I get this your idea and I emphasize it to entire my students.
Well, I'm continually believing now that bad companies cannot exist very long anymore. Not only because of these rating systems that evaluate and publicize the best companies and the poorer companies, but just because of the internet. It is so easy for people to tell other people what companies they like, what companies they don't. And so you don't even have a choice as a company but to be good and developing good values so people recognize that. And I love your message to the students that they should go with that in mind. In fact, what they should do is not join a company that doesn't fit a high level of value and service, or else they'll get entangled in a business that's not going to last. Not that sometimes they have so much choice, but choose your employer carefully, and so on. Why don't we now ask...
If you don't mind, Dr.
Sure.
Professor, I would like to take this opportunity and ask you, while the communication industry representative are here, in the telecommunication industry in Saudi Arabia, I believe it's in the product concept. There are just a few competitors, and the demand almost equal to the supply. I think they should not spend the shareholders' money undertaking a huge sale and promotion. Because if they do good, if they provide a good service, a good product, the word of mouth enough, and to save the promotion money to their pocket and their customer pockets.
Well, that's a very radical idea, and I like it too. Do you think you know of some companies, without naming them, that are really, they are overspending on that? They think that their crutch they're on a crutch of thinking that advertising and promotion will do it. And you think if you use that same money just to make a better product, just to create better service, the word will get out without you talking about yourself. We believe that the old days was one of monologue. A company trying to talk only to you, not to listen to you, not to have any interaction. And today it's a very different world. But I don't know if Mobile and others are going to slow down in their promotion. They know when they're getting a good return on their promotion, I hope.
Yes.
And so on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
There's a point. Again, I believe that you being here is an opportunity that we have to capture. So sorry for delaying the questions. I have an issue that I want to raise and I need your opinion about it. Most of the big companies are, especially in this area, are family-owned business. Some of them are having the brand name and the family name are the same, and that's fine. Still, there are some companies which have a different brand name, a family name and a brand name. And as you know, that brand itself has a personality. Right? And then we have the person who's owning the company, which has a personality. So how can you measure the effects of the characteristic of the person and the characteristic of the personality of the brand? How you can balance it, not to affecting each other negatively. Positively, that's fine, but negatively.
Well, some of you are closer to the situation. Do you have a response to that about the balancing of the name, the brand name, and the
brand name
and the family name
and the family name? Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have a person who's strong, well known in the society, has a name, and as you said, a person has a name.
Yeah.
which is a brand.
Yeah.
And then you have the brand name, which has a personality.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You know, it's true. I was meeting a company in Jeddah, and the company was telling me that they were a family business, basically, but they've decided now to separate the family part from the brand part, and to hire professional, you know, we know what a professional managers are, because a family can be professional, and they are, but maybe you better leave it to some of the real professionals. And that means they're trusting the new people to manage the brand in a way that doesn't affect the family name and so on. And so I've seen that situation. I think it's a balancing act. I really think you have to be careful, because families want to continue forever. And they want whoever's managing the brand to run it in a way that will help the family continue, and so on.
Excuse me if I can.
You're very, yes, go ahead.
I just, if you take the example of Ford as an example, it's a family name, and it's a product name, it's a brand name, and it continues forever. But it's a unique situation. I understand his point of view, where here in Saudi or in the Middle East, if your company goes bust, your name goes bust too, which means your family name too. So understanding that culture concept of having the family name related to the brand name, it's kind of a unique one.
Yeah.
And I think this is something unique that we can look into deeper and see how we can manage a company name that is the same brand name.
Yeah. Well, because in this part of the world, a lot of families created businesses and run businesses, we have at our schools, Kellogg, Harvard, Stanford, are running programs on how to manage family businesses now. Ours is so popular at Kellogg that it's a week-long thing, and everyone there is from a family that owns companies. And they learn a lot about even just how you treat the members of the family and how you solve problems. Yes.
I think to address this specific point, I would emphasize on 2 points. First of all, is diversification of the management. So obviously, as an organization or as a group, family group.
One of the things is General Motors added him to the board for corporate governance. He was so unhappy with everything going on with the board that he was talking publicly about how bad they are. And they said, Ross, leave us. They're sort of firing him. And do not talk publicly about General Motors. If you talk publicly, we have set up $10 million, and we're going to cancel that. You won't get it if we see you talking publicly. He left the board and wrote an article in Fortune magazine that's famous, how I would run General Motors. He lost the $10 million. Of course, he made so much money without it. And that article says, I would never run a car company unless it was a company making the best cars in the world. And you guys aren't doing it. So corporate governance, if you want to be smart, at least on the inside, have some more critical thinkers, not to go public necessarily, but to help you change the strategy and so on and so forth. Well, we want to hear from your comments, your questions, and we can start now. We don't have that much time, so I know it's hard to start the first question. Some of you might be shy, but if I see any hands up, wonderful. I see one hand, I see 2 hands. I want to see hands from the women too. There's a hand there. So we have walking mics. I believe he raised his hands first. Do you see who has it? Oh, someone has the microphone? Please just introduce yourself and just ask or make your comment. Who has the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, please,
Yeah.
let's hear you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله جميعا.
My name is Mohammed Al-Qadir. I'm a student in Al-Yamama University. Professor Kotler, on behalf of Al-Yamama students, males and females, I want to thank you for this great session you have performed, and you really inspired us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
And as a member in the marketing club in my university, we really consider you as our icon. So thank you very much. My question is, how a firm should select the right marketing philosophy that fits its market conditions?
You heard the question?
How a firm should select the right marketing philosophy that fits its market conditions.
How a firm, and all of us can comment on this, how a firm can choose a marketing philosophy that fits its own nature,
It's market conditions. The market conditions. Like for example, what Dr. Alayan said, that the telecommunications industry in Saudi Arabia are still in the product stage, the product concept, the product philosophy stage. There are
maybe you're asking how to transition, since many companies will be product-centered, marketing 1.0, and therefore they have a philosophy that goes with that, which is make products, sell products, good products, but it's not collecting data on customers or moving to the next stage. And maybe it's a question that's a very important one. How do you transition? What if someone here is in such a company and wants to know how to get to the next stage? Which is partly, when you use the word philosophy, to get a new way of looking at things. And I don't know about that, because product-centered companies, sometimes the answer is you see that your competitors are changing and doing better. And then you ask why, and often you see that they've changed something about their own practice. You know this concept, best practices? The concept of best practices is to watch competitors in your industry and not in your industry and learn from them. Let me give you the best illustration. I worked with a company called Milliken. Milliken makes carpets, makes blue jeans and denims, and the son of the company, and it was a family-oriented company, the son said to his father, "Dad, I've been to Japan," this was some years ago, "and it blew my mind to see what they're doing. Dad, you've got to come to see what's happening in Japan about quality control, lean marketing, always improving." And the father resisted. The father was running the company and says, "I'm happy with our company." Finally, the father gave in and said, "All right, I'll go and see what's happening in Japan." It blew his mind. The next day, he was on the phone changing his company. Just from seeing over a week what the Japanese were doing, their theories of total quality management, TQM, and just in time, that basically he changed his own company. So best practices often get a company off of being too product-centered. Now, some of us say you should be better than just copying best practices. That means you're only catching up. Can you exceed best practices? Is part of the way you watch and you grow. We have a second question. Someone has a microphone. Who has a microphone now? Oh, yes, thank you. Is it working?
Yes. My name is Walid. I'm working with Mr. McDonald's, but my question is for mobile, actually. One of the tools that marketers use is segmentation.
Yes.
And mobile, when they did this, one of the segments that they're focusing on is the sport segment.
Okay.
And they focus on one club in Saudi Arabia, which is Al Hilal. How is it benefiting mobile to focus only on one club, where the rivalry is in the country when it comes to sport?
Yeah. So here's a company you're mentioning. Is it McDonald's?
Mobile.
The Mobile.
Mobile.
So you're going to answer this question.
I'll answer this question.
The question is about their support of one particular club. Is that smart?
The sport is not a segment. The youth, Saudi male youth is the segment that we're targeting. Sport, as a result of the limitations that we have in the kingdom, we can't use music as a platform, we can't use other activities. Sports is the one area that young people, male and female here in Saudi Arabia, are completely passionate about. So this is a platform we decided on to carry our products into the hearts of the Saudi youth population. We started out at the beginning, in actual fact, we were sponsoring 13 different sports the first few years, the Olympic, basketball, all of these. This was our first attempt to get into that area. It wasn't successful, it was too fragmented. Al Hilal, I guess we've got a split audience here, but Al Hilal, let's say they're one of the best Saudi football teams, if not the best football Saudi team. Mobile had to transition, again, we're retargeting this demographic. What better vehicle to sponsor or, deepen the hearts of Saudi youth than Al Hilal football team? And that's the reason that we went after the sponsorship of Saudi Al Hilal football team as an advertising platform. The biggest concern we had was, are we going to alienate people from the eastern region, the western region? Before we did the deal, we did surveys, we asked questions, and there's a friendly rivalry, but most importantly, people did not say that they would not buy our product as a result of sponsoring it. And I'd just like to say, as a vehicle, the amount of money that we paid for it is insignificant in comparison to every single day that you open a sports newspaper, you will see a Mobile logo on a football jersey, an Al Hilal jersey. So importantly, it was the segment was the youth segmentation. We don't have a sports segment.
I told the panelists that there's a danger of being a panelist. Someone may ask a question about your company, but it's so well handled. Do we have a question from any of the women? Make sure that there's a microphone there. And then give someone a microphone there, but now, who has the microphone here?
Just Professor Professor Kotler.
Oh, yes, please.
Professor, just to touch on, I have a question for you on this point specifically.
Yes.
Are you in support of the idea of associating your brand with a specific team, if it's in a sports event or otherwise?
Oh, okay. I recently wrote a book called Elusive Fans. It's the story of sports, and I think that many sport teams don't really treat their own fans well, and they're missing a point. But I do know I'm going to be speaking in Brazil this November, and I had to give a whole talk on sports marketing to Brazil. This will answer your question eventually. Brazil is in the unique position of sponsoring the World Cup in 2012 and Olympics in 2014. They don't know, they're going crazy because every company in Brazil and every company outside of Brazil wants to know how much money should they put on the World Cup and how much should they put on the Olympics, and is that too much? So I've been watching the sports scene. I think you're asking directly about the choice by Mobile of one sports team right now, and I think they certainly can't support all the sports teams. I think, here's the thing, and here's the thing about sponsorship. It's very interesting. In Belgium, the soccer team is supported by what company? And for the last 10 years, they've been the sponsor. Every time the soccer game starts, it says, oh, it's Bank General. It's a bank. Bank General, their name is is right there, and every team member is sponsoring that sport. But every year the board of the bank says, should we continue to sponsor them? Are they the most exciting group that we should sponsor? And you know, the truth is they're stuck now. Because if they stop sponsoring, is something wrong with that team? Is something wrong with the bank? So be very careful. Like if you stop sponsoring the sports team you're sponsoring, you're going to be in trouble, and there's going to be questions. So there's a danger. Yeah, thank you. Who had the microphone? Yes. And then we'll go, you, and then we'll go to the women.
Professor Kotler, first I'd like to say welcome to Saudi Arabia. It's a pleasure to have you as our guest in our country. My question is actually about a recurring theme that I see in modern marketing practices being very resource-heavy tools such as data mining and other modern tools that have developed with the internet age and so forth. These might not be feasible for small businesses. So first of all, I'm wondering, what is your opinion as how do these tools and the resources needed affect the competitiveness of small business in this day and age? And how do you see that impacting the more long-term view of the role of small businesses in society?
Excellent question, and all of us could comment. And let me just give you this view. It's not well known that the United States employment situation grew in good times, not because of the big companies growing, but the small companies appearing and emerging. So we became very dependent on entrepreneurship. Now the question is, how much marketing can be afforded by a small company? I think Saudi Arabia should really do what it can to build entrepreneurial and support entrepreneurial startups and so on. It should be easy to start a business here, I hope. It should be easy to get investors. And the question is, they never have much money. So is marketing are there ways to market without spending so much money that the big people have? And the answer is yes. I think when people say, I need a lot of money to build my brand and become bigger, as I've said before, I think your brand is built by your employees and by your products and your service. And I was often asked to write a book on small business. But you know, I'd still mention the 4 Ps. I would still mention segmentation, targeting, positioning. But I will tell you an interesting story. First time it ever happened, I was asked to write a high school book on marketing. Now look, high schools, at best you teach economics in a high school. You don't teach marketing. So what country asked me to write a high school textbook on marketing? Of all countries, it was Holland, the Netherlands. Now let's ask why. The Netherlands grew by trade. The Dutch are a small country. They grew by world trade. They had colonies. And they believe their salvation lies in raising young people to be traders and marketers. Now, I never wrote the book, but it would have had a lot to do with small business and so on and so forth. But any views on small businesses? Yes, Professor.
You know, in a small business, usually there is no other functions. You know, there is no accounting department. There is no human resource department. So mainly there is a marketing function. And a person, before starting a small business, he must be market-oriented. If he is really market-oriented before he starts his business, he will function marketing correctly. And then when the small business grow up, then officially we make another department, which is a facilitating department. So what I'm emphasizing in my teaching, that marketing is the main function of the business. So before you start a small business, be sure you know how to do marketing.
Yeah. You know who you want to be your customers and what their needs are that you can solve, and don't go into business where those needs are already solved by someone else better than you. I agree.
May I add just, Professor?
Yes, please.
I think if you look at small businesses, it is a matter of what is the best for the business itself. Is he going to focus on the quality of the product itself and then that will market itself. If limited resources, I think the best solution is the social media right now.
Oh, good point.
Social media is very cheap and it's very easy and can reach mass number of people that you cannot reach by any other conventional.
So it should be easier now for new businesses to start because of the social media.
Exactly. I think if, take for example, a lady who prepares a small product in her house, if she goes in internet, she puts herself in Facebook or use Twitter or blogging or one of these social medias, there will be somebody who will be interested in that product. That will be much easier for her than to try to go and knock on doors to try to sell the product, or to go and market it directly to the shops or the
You know, it's so interesting when you say that because, by the way, one of our sponsors is a company called Think Out. That's all their name is, Think Out. And I said, what does that mean? It says, think out of the box.
Yeah.
But what they are social media specialists helping companies that have only relied on the old media to start really using YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and not to go wholesale. It would be very dumb to cut your budget in half and move half of it to new media. You got to do it slowly and wisely. And all these new media interrelate, because if you get on Twitter, it leads to something on Facebook that leads to YouTube, and small businesses could really do well that way. Anyone there with a microphone? Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Lama Dawalibi from Market Window. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and welcome you in Saudi Arabia on behalf of all the female section here, if I may. A great session, very valuable information. I would just like to emphasize on one simple and small point regarding marketing. And I hope that I'm getting this right, but apparently marketing is an ongoing process that everybody should understand. It goes hand in hand with continuous development and retaining loyalty of customers in addition to creative advertising. But one very, very important point that I believe that everybody should understand is that marketing is only successful if you believe in your product or service, and the very beginning would start in believing in yourself. So I think we should invest more in teaching our youth how to present themselves, how to market themselves, and prepare them to go to the actual and real world, and to be able to market not only themselves but the products and services that they will be selling in the future. I have a simple question to local companies, and that is, how much are they investing in selecting the right marketing team for them to market their products and services? Because again, belief in products and services is a very, very important point. If you don't believe in what you're selling, then you definitely won't be able to neither market it or sell it.
Okay, very good. It's so important for young people not to just join a company and be mechanical, but to really be passionate about some business that they could either think of even starting or something that excites them. By the way, we always say your salesman can't be effective unless they love the product. But let me tell you a story. It's very interesting. In Japan, when someone gets a business degree in marketing, and they want to work for Toyota. Let's take Toyota. They're lucky enough to get a job with Toyota, and they want to be in marketing. Do you think Toyota puts them into marketing first? What's the first job that the marketing student gets when he joins Toyota?
Production.
Production. First, put the student to see how wonderful the product is, to understand how it's made. Once that happens, the second job is still not marketing. The second job is usually customer service. the group that hears from customers about the product, which now the student likes very much, it was in production, but now he hears that there are some things said about it, some disappointments and so on. After that, the third job is sales. He can't go into marketing. He's got to know what selling is all about. So he goes to a dealership. So it's a few years before the person who was hired to be a marketer gets to be a marketer. And I think this is very sensible to give a broader experience to the people who will eventually run your company. But loving the product is a good starting point. Is a microphone here somewhere? Good. Who has the microphone now? Some of our people here.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Thanks for your hand, but I find it hard. The people who are looking, do you know who has the microphone?
I have it here.
Please start with your question.
Okay. Well, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Mohammed Al-Jalal. I'm from Prince Sultan University. At first, we would like really to thank you, as students of Prince Sultan University, for
Okay, I hear you. Yes, thank you.
For giving us the pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
And share the latest knowledge with us. My question is, you've mentioned before the last break about the reputation factors, that the first important thing for a company to build their reputation on is products and services, and then financial performance. My question is, are there any specific industries or markets, such as mature markets in the United States, where other reputation factors, such as social responsibility or workplace environment, should be prioritized over products and services?
Good question. So the question is, when you look at the 6 factors that make for reputation, and the last ones I mentioned as being more minor was responsibility, corporate, and then also maybe emotional connection with people. And you're asking, are there companies that started out putting the heaviest emphasis on social responsibility, and they became famous for that? And the answer is yes. And I'll give you 2 examples. One is the famous body shop, which started in the United Kingdom by a woman who was a chemist, and she said that the industry is a bad industry because it makes women think that they're going to be beautiful if they use the products of these famous cosmetic companies. And she said, I'm in the business of making good things to use on your skin, to keep your skin in good condition. That's all it is. It's not going to make you beautiful. And as a matter of fact, I'm also interested in saving the whales, feeding the hungry, and so on. The whole platform was, she was in business to offer good value and also to contribute to a better world. Her name was Anita Roddick, and the body shop grew until there were 1,000 or 2,000 units around the world. And by the way, another thing that was so funny about it is her first shop was opened in London with the name The Body Shop, and it was located next to a funeral parlor, either by design or by accident. So people would walk and they'd see funeral parlor, body shop, they couldn't know what is she selling? Anyways, that's one example. The other is a very famous one, Ben & Jerry ice cream, which announced that they're going to give 10% of their profits, their net profits, to support farmers in the Vermont area for all the ice cream they sell. And many of us loved Ben & Jerry ice cream. We loved Ben & Jerry. They became personalities. Now, the latest one I heard that's so successful, you know how many companies sell shoes. You can buy shoes from so many different manufacturers. In the United States, there's one called Tom's Shoes. You can look it up on your iPad, Tom's Shoes. Every time you buy a pair of their shoes, they take another pair and give it to poor people. Everyone's buying Tom's shoes now. You see, it is possible for a company to start out with making its platform social responsibility. So I really appreciate your question. Thank you.
If I may add, Professor.
A question over there.
Here.
Okay, do they have a microphone there?
Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
My name is Shahad. Hello, Professor Kafir. You mentioned earlier that strong marketing makes hard selling unnecessary, and that a great product will no doubt sell itself. From my experience with different American companies, many of which you've mentioned in your seminar, that the American companies are very also sales-oriented, and that aggressive sales force is really the key to success. Wouldn't you agree that having a great product, in addition to aggressive sales force, is best for the bottom line? And probably what is missing from a lot of our companies here in Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
So you've noticed that a lot of American companies are strong both in product and in sales force, maybe in marketing, and the combination works for them. And you are concerned that many companies here, or some of them, are relying maybe only on great product, and they ought to combine it with great marketing and sales. And on the other hand, some companies here might only think that the job is a marketing and sales job, regardless of whether they have a great product. So your point is well taken that the two of them are important. Now there's a third function I want to throw in, and that is innovation. I think that the best combination you could have is strong product, strong marketing, strong innovation. But how can you, because you can't stay the same, you've got to have a culture of innovation. I don't mean your Apple computer. You're not creating great innovations. But here's what happens. The Toyota company tells me that they want everyone at Toyota to come up with ideas. I don't know if you've done that in your companies. I don't know if Mobile says, any one of our employees, you're most welcome to give us ways to improve things. Here's the email address of the head. Toyota says it gets suggestions from 70% of its workers in the factory as well as in the offices every year, and about a third of the ideas are actually implemented. So I would want to, and Peter Drucker was the person who made this statement. The two most important functions of a company are marketing and innovation. All the rest are costs. So if you have those two aligned with each other, you should be continuously improving in the marketplace. We have a little more time. Does someone have a microphone now? Good. Please, let's hear from you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Samir Yamak from the University of Leicester. Thank you for this session. Before I start, there was a question earlier about SB marketing. I think you answered this question in your presentation when you discussed transactional customers. And then the next slides, you spoke about the branding and the word shows and seminars. I think this answered the question of SB. It was there in the slides. Now I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. There's an important marketing strategy by W.H. Kim and René Mauborgne from INSEAD University, which is the Blue Ocean Strategy. It's about value innovation. I was surprised. I thought that I'm going to be seeing a lot of it in your presentation, but I did not. Even though, although you mentioned something about market driving companies. Yeah. I'm not sure if this is what you mean. But anyway, that strategy is very famous. So I was wondering if it fits in Marketing 3.0 or not. And second question, if I may. Now currently there's a tension between sales and marketing always, that sales people would see marketing as an overlay, as an extra cost. So when I walk in on my CEO, which probably he is coming from a sales background, and tell him, hey, Mr. CEO, how about having two marketing departments? He said, I'm done with one marketing department, the cost of it. Would you want me to add one more? So how do you justify the cost of having two marketing departments instead of one? Thank you.
Yes, I think it is a radical idea of mine to have two marketing departments, but I would do it in a different way than call the second one a marketing department. It will be a marketing department, but I won't call it that. I'll do exactly what DuPont did. DuPont had a very good marketing department to do the normal selling of chemicals and so on. But they noticed it was not a department with any far-seeing people who were imagining the future of some of these products. They didn't call it a second marketing department. They called it an advanced group period, something like that. What it was a collection of far-seeing marketers that were not present in the first department. Because I think you're right, there's a sensitivity. I mean, it's like, oh, I want to be in the strategic marketing department. So I think you're absolutely right that we should avoid, get a different name for that special group that is sort of building your future. The first question, I heard about marketing or demarketing. I didn't quite hear it. Did you hear the question? But anyways, you asked one of the two questions. That's good.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
Just one comment, if you don't mind.
Yes. Yes, please.
In some of your writing, you emphasize that a good company should not have a marketing department. And today, you are telling us we should have two marketing departments.
Well, if I ever wrote that, and I probably did, it was in a stage of enthusiasm where I was saying that if everyone is thinking marketing, you don't need the department. And by the way, what's happening is wonderful. In more and more businesses, those who never knew a thing about marketing because they were in finance, they were in purchasing, do you know in the best companies, everyone understands marketing? You don't have to explain it to them. They all know that they're trying to win the customer. And as a matter of fact, it won't mean that the marketing thing disappears as a function. It simply means that it's owned by everyone. They're all going to win by winning for the customer. Now, there is a thought that just occurred to me that we're in a world of resource constraints now. And I think the big thing we're going to get into is demarketing. Now, listen, it's bad enough we're still learning marketing. What is demarketing? Demarketing is really an opportunity. There are some resources that we have to handle very carefully. One of them is water. We have to become skilled at saving water and making money saving water. We are now here doing desalinization. The best thing that could happen is if we can get people to use water more carefully. So how do you demarket? I'm not saying you're telling people not to use water. You're telling them to use less water. You're telling people to use, not to cut down forests. There's a whole set of skills involved. When demarketing started in California, when they had a water shortage, they ended up saying, do not water your grass that often. Do not take a shower every day. And there was a whole program of demarketing. And so I believe that's going to be a skill that we'll need as certain resources get very, very in short supply. You know, Saudi Arabia is facing a real problem in 2030. You know what it is? The amount of oil you're going to need to desalinize the water so you can drink it is your total supply of oil. If you're not into alternative fuels, solar and wind and so on, you'll be using all the oil you could sell abroad to basically make enough water for you to have for your farms and for your people. So there's a big project, and I had the pleasure of meeting the nuclear physicist yesterday who has got his team together to get Saudi Arabia into alternative energies. And it was really wonderfully encouraging what they're doing to recognize this problem now. So demarketing is another skill.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I think our friends from the public relations department will be a little bit upset if we just say to them demarketing without acknowledging that the work that public relations departments do in public awareness and putting what you just mentioned about being careful of the scarcity of water and how to conserve water. Many people call it public relations programs, public awareness programs. And don't look at it from a demarketing point of view.
Oh, they call it more like a public relations program to get people to be careful about water and so on,
exactly.
Rather than a demarketing. You think the semantics might be a problem?
Because the concept of demarketing, which means that we are already over-marketing the use of water. We are already asking people to buy more water. Where on the other hand, actually, it is supply and demand for usage of water. However, when you want to make the public participate in programs that will, at the end of the day, benefit not only the individuals, but the whole society at large, I think it becomes more of public awareness programs.
Well, I appreciate that and agree with you, because public relations and I have always had a debate with each other, and I wrote an article once and I said, is marketing the big idea and public relations one of the tools? Or is public relations the big idea and marketing is one of the tools? Or are they separate functions, or are they overlapping a little bit? Because public relations has been treated by marketing as a stepchild. First of all, public relations is much more than marketing public relations, because there's financial public relations, there's employee public relations. And yet, there is a word called marketing public relations, NPR. It's when marketing people use public relations besides advertising and other things. And marketing public relations has been a stepchild of marketing. It's not, the glamour was in the advertising. And now we have a whole book written by Tom Harris called Marketing Public Relations, which is how marketing people could benefit from investing more in public relations maybe than in advertising. So I like, I'm very respectful of using those terms maybe instead of demarketing and so on. I think our time is up, and I'm so sorry because we can, if I take one more question, it has to be, let's just take two more questions. Is that all right with you? There's one, who has a mic here and who has a mic there?
Yes, my name is Lamal Naki from Yamama University. I have one question. How can a marketer market himself to another marketer? I mean, all of us know the tricks or the techniques to do that, but I'm going to graduate one day, soon, inshallah. But I don't know how another marketing company would accept me for based on what? How can I market myself to them?
As I heard the question, it's how can they, that literature, by looking it up, just you are a brand kind of thing, and it will help you see how to market yourself. We have one more question here. Someone has the microphone. You're the lucky person. This is the last question.
Assalamu alaikum. Ahmed Abakhail from Mobile. I understand there is, in some companies, there is a the relation between sales department and marketing is not always okay between the two players. When it comes to, they are in a competitive manner, this will lead to a negative result on the company and function as an overall function. But I have, it's a comment and at the same time it's a question to you, Professor Philip. In the test market stage, before the company commercialize the product, I would suggest that the feedback from the market to be studied based on a committee from the two departments, not from marketing. split it 50% because they will share the success or the failure. This is number one. Number two is the job rotation between these two departments is very important and very critical. This is my question. What do you think about these 2 points? Is to share in the test stage, the feedback to be tested both between the sales and the marketing. Number two is the rotation.
I have some reactions, but any reactions to the role of sales and marketing being good at feedback to build a better understanding of how well the company and how it can do better? See, it's very interesting, if I'm understanding the question, that the salespeople know much more than the marketing people. They're in touch with the customers. Do you know what the problem is? Often we say to some salespeople in a company, we say, could you give us some time? We want to learn from you what you know. And they say, we're too busy. Pay me. Can you imagine the salespeople in your own company say, if you're going to take my time just to research me, and I can spend hours telling you about what customers are really like, but you got to pay me. Not always. Salespeople often are willing to give you help, because otherwise we only rely on marketers who are studying customers through statistics and some, research projects. But how do you get both of them to be really giving you the best feedback possible? And if that was a question, they have to work together. That's what I mean by being aligned. Being aligned. I want to thank all of you for your being here all day and being with us. I want to thank our panel for your wonderful sharing with us, and thank you very much. The evening is now yours. Thank you very much. Deja, thank you so much. Thank you. You're wonderful inside.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Professor Kotler, prior to closing, Al-Yamama University would like to honor you with a trophy. So they would like to present it. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I would like to thank everyone for your participation. Prior to closing, Al-Yamama University would like to present a trophy to Professor Philip Kotler. And yeah, thank you. And then Think Out is actually honored to also present you with a small token to remember Saudi Arabia, and look forward to your next visit. Thank you. And I hope that the day was fruitful, and we appreciate your feedback, and we would like to thank you for your time investment you have done with us today, and surely look forward to seeing you in future activities. Thanks a lot for your attendance, and thanks a lot for your time.